Today we are diving into the topic of ancestral healing and 7 hidden blockages in the subconscious that I really wish I knew and understood deeper, like 15 years ago when I first started this self-healing process. So we're going to share a little bit about our journey with ancestral healing, what is ancestral healing, and we're going to talk about these 7 hidden blockages. So let's dive in. So the first thing I really want to talk about is ancestral trauma and epigenetics. That, I've got my list here, that what literally happened to them still lives within you. And this can be anything from war to poverty to, collective trauma happening at the time. This can be, many of my ancestors, my Swedish ancestors, my German ancestors, my Irish ancestors, they all came from poverty, and they all came, or some of them were not quite destitute, but they were all in situations where they left their motherland and they came to America, and that is a major trauma, and it is literally living within our cells. Those cells that made up our ancestors are literally living within us today. And when we're talking about ancestral healing, it's important to really notice and understand not all of it is our responsibility to keep holding on to this, to keep, I always loved this quote of traditions are simply peer pressure passed down from dead people. And it's important to realize and recognize that there's some traditions, there's some patterns, there's some behaviors that we do not have to give energetic access to. We can recognize those patterns and close the flippin' doors. And with ancestral healing, what we're talking about really is we are disrupting patterns and choosing to forge new paths. And that's what so many of us feel so deeply called into. So that first subconscious block that I really didn't fully understand for many years was the ancestral trauma and everything that they had gone through to, walk off the battlefield, to be this person that I descended from. It took a lot for them to come to America. A lot happened before they even got to America. There was so much war, so many things, like with the Viking raids and religion and all of these like insane things that happened before they even got to America, and then all the trauma that happened when they got to here. It's a lot, and they did not have the tools to really process any of that. We are living in an age right now where we have the opportunity and the gift to actually process this stuff and release it. Like, okay, I recognize it, I see it, I accept that this happened, and you know what? I'm gonna set this down. I'm gonna give this back to Mother Earth. I'm gonna ask God, Source Creator, our beloved Most High, for help in disrupting and ending these patterns and helping me clear these subconscious things that, I didn't really understand were running. So that's number one is understanding the epigenetics. You can do your own research on that. I know that is been gaining bigger ground in the past couple years of scientists like actually studying and going deeper into epigenetics and how much it connects and it links us all. Second thing that I really wish I knew and understood is ancestral spell work, curses, hexes. Not all ancestors walked in the light, some walked in the black, and some accumulated curses, spell work, hexes specifically against your bloodline, and that still breathes in your body, which hearing that may really freak some of you out. I know the idea of, curses, hexes, spell work, the way I see it and the way I look at it now is that it's literally, it's energy. Energy can never be, energy never truly dies. It can only be transmuted and brought into the light, recycled, regenerated into something new. So with that kind of stuff, it's sort of hard to pinpoint it, and at the same time, you know it when you see it. It's something I really started to notice as I was doing, we were doing energy healing sessions and work with other people. I've been really stepping into that role as the shaman and honoring that, and that's something that I've been training for many years without really fully understanding why. And now really recognizing how much we can break these spells and break these hexes and curses. And it can be as simple as something as like a health curse, where those, it's the beliefs that really feed into those curses. So let's say it's like, okay, well, my mom had a heart attack and died, and her mother had a heart attack and died, and her great-great-great had, so it's like, oh, I'm gonna get that too. That's literally like a self-fulfilling curse. And it's one of those things that we can go deeper into, really like acknowledging what the heart represents, what it's been holding on to. I have seen a lot of deep pattern in the women in my family of having broken hearts, literally broken hearts. And so it's something to go deeper into and explore through meditation or working with a shaman, working with someone. And it's something that, it's like, it when you, like, something really easy to spot with curses and hexes and spell work, and you're like, well, do I have this on my family? One is understanding the trauma in your family. If you have, let's zoom out. An exercise that I first started like 15 years ago was one, I started getting really into genealogy, and luckily I have a family of hoarders who saved all sorts of things. This is a German Bible from 1859 that literally has like my ancestral story in there. So I got a lot of information from that, and a lot of other documents and such. But that is like a really great place to really start looking into these patterns. Do you also have a lot of ancestors that made big life-altering changes and moves to like another country? Do you have ancestors that went through war, slavery? In America, it's a really big thing about slavery. It only ended like back in like the 1860s. So that is a really deep wound here in America. And also, slavery was going on all over Europe, all over Asia. This is not something new in our in our DNA. Slavery is a very deep trauma wound that affects so many of us. Every single one on this planet. It happened in Rome. It happened in Greece, in all of those areas too, in Egypt. Like, what the fuck? Like, it happened everywhere. So that is like a really deep pattern too. It's beginning to do your own research, asking questions, asking your parents, your grandparents, asking about these stories and these histories and the deeper patterns. Something that I really started to notice as I was doing more and more research is how many women lost children. That is a huge wound. And something I can remember happening to me one time was I was doing this deeper healing work with my heart, and all of a sudden I connected into something. I connected into this energy, and I just started sobbing and screaming, my son, my son. And you know, I have never had a child. I've never been pregnant in this lifetime. And at the same time, I was bawling my eyes out and allowing this grief to wash through me. And as I started to calm down and I was sitting with this, and because I know of the research that I had been doing, I finally realized who this was. This was like my great grandmother, fourth great grandmother, who came to America, and she literally lost her youngest son on the voyage, on the boat from Germany to America. So that was grief she was never allowed to process. She was literally moving to a different country, going across the ocean. She had 3 other children, and she had to take care of them and, you know, reunite with her husband when she got to America. Like, it was just absolutely heartbreaking to even talk about that still. And at the same time, I allowed myself to process and release that grief that I was carrying in my cells. This is the kind of patterns that we can really recognize and see simply through doing ancestral research. This is number 3. Sometimes these curses, hexes, spell work are specifically because you carry the God codes. You specifically carry the lineage of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene within your bloodline. And you know, you want to call it the 144, the chosen ones. This is literally pulsating in your DNA, in your blood. And this blood has been specifically targeted for many lifetimes. I feel like I'm just like seeing the Star Wars movie where Anakin goes in and like starts killing all the little Jedi, and they, like, all over the galaxy, the universe, they start killing off all the Jedi. This is pretty much what they've been doing, is targeting and siphoning and killing off this bloodline, and at the same time we still rise. So that is a very deep programming and targeted programming. It's very much fear-based. It's something that can be healed. It's something that can be released. It's a pattern and a subconscious program that can be blocked and transmuted, alchemized, brought into the light. This is something, if you're comfortable doing this yourself, really connecting in with God, Source, Creator, our beloved Most High, the Most High God, connecting in with that frequency, that energy, and inviting in that healing, you know, asking for help. How do I break this pattern? How do I break this curse? Following your own intuition. We have created a ancestral healing with the Earth Star Chakra, which is available, and at the same time you can do this yourself. We created this transmission to simply be this support for you if you're feeling guided to go a bit deeper with that. So let's talk about the next thing that I wish I knew. Ancestral debts, ancestral karma passed on to us. Choices were made, actions were taken, and debts need to be paid and or released. Setting those patterns down. This goes back to that ancestral spell work curses. Some of our ancestors, you know, they they made some choices, they made some decisions, they, you know, did some heinous things and didn't process it, you know, and this is actions that may have been taken, choices that were made, and this can also be trauma. This could be sexual abuse, this can be narcissism, codependency, passed down through generation after generation after generation. Literally, it's like copy and paste the same generations passed down. And this is something that you can do in really recognizing and seeing those patterns. And the biggest piece of healing is bringing that awareness, bringing that acceptance, bringing that compassion and mercy. And it's like, I see that. I see the pattern. I see where it has weaved its way through all of my ancestors, passed down over and over and over again. And it is us who have this choice and this decision to actually see it, to call it out, and decide to do something differently. Going to the next one, I guess this is number 4 or 5. Maybe this is number 5. Let's talk about ancestral religious vows, agreements, contracts with the devil. Quite literally, some ancestors dropped down to their knees and made agreements to participate in horrific ceremonies, child abuse, and sacrificial practices. Story time. As I've been going along this ancestral healing journey, I've taken many journeys. I've worked with several people. Most of this I've done on my own. There was one particular instance where I was working with a narcissist, sociopath wannabe guru. And at the same time, you know, lesson upon lesson upon lesson, I was going through this shamanic journey, and I literally was led and saw this ancestral pattern with child abuse, and literally was led to this castle where it was literally like brides of Satan. And I don't know why I'm smiling saying that. Like, it's just one of those, like, it was really heavy and dark things that I was seeing, and like this was literally like in my bloodline that ancestors participated in. And it's one of those things where it's like I was needed to be shown that, because it was breaking my energetic tie to any agreements that ancestors made on behalf of me. There's a lot of these ancestral patterns where they made agreements for their bloodline, for their offspring, to serve, you know, a certain being. So it's important to, you know, if it's important to recognize that these bonds, these trauma loops, these ancestral vows and agreements can be fucking broken, okay? Because you are a sovereign being. Let's say it with me. I am a divine sovereign being, and nothing and no one has power over me on this or any other plane. So that is something a little bit scary. And at the same time, it's recognizing, accepting that it happened, and deciding to choose differently. All right, let's talk about this big one. I guess this is number 6. Not all ancestors are here to help. No, they ain't. Some are here to hinder and block you, and because they want to continue to live through you and keep you in karmic loops of trauma. Some don't want you to succeed where they have failed. So this is a big thing about practicing discernment. I know there's a lot of people, they talk about honoring our ancestors. And at the same time, it's important to understand that it's like, yes, being grateful, like thank you for walking so I can run. And at the same time, you know, we're serving no one except God, Source Creator, our beloved Most High. I'm not here to appease my ancestors. I'm here to break patterns and break loops that, yeah, many of them couldn't. Now, on the flip side of that, there's also many ancestors that are here to help and support us. And I feel like my biggest one to talk about with this is literally my third great grandmother. She has come through many times for me, especially as I was opening up and learning more and more about my gifts. She, you know, connecting with her really helped me to understand my gifts and my powers, and how I can use them to be of service, and, you know, how to work with them, how to work with the energy. So my third great grandmother, I have this, it's called like a dry wash stand. It's like this wooden base, and it's got a marble top on it, and it was hers. And literally one time I was sitting in my room and I just kept hearing like, look under the drawer, look under the drawer. And I opened up the drawer and I was like looking everywhere, and then finally I saw it. It was like this little beaded, it must have been an earring or a necklace or something, and it's like really pretty, like turquoise and coral or something. It's like turquoise and orange, and I could literally just hear her saying like, this is a gift for you, like to confirm and to let me know like she's here and she's here to help me. Another time, I was literally laying in bed, and I had, you know, I've had a lot of issues with allergies and like breaking out in hives head to toe. And one time I had broken out in hives on my eyelids, and they were so freaking itchy. And I, you know, I had made salves and stuff to help, but nothing was really helping. And all of a sudden I heard this voice. It was like 3 in the morning. I was just like so uncomfortable. And I heard like calendula, calendula. And I was like, what the fuck is calendula? So I look it up and I figured out it was calendula. The herbalism world calls it calendula. I call it calendula because that's how I first heard it. And like looking that up, it's like, oh, this really helps with eczema and hives and helping your skin heal. And it was like realizing later this was my 4th great grandmother, who her name was Magdalena, or her name was like one of, I don't know, back then they all had like 3 first names, but yes, Magdalena. And she, you know, it's kind of interesting. I was drawn to read this book the other day, or look through it, and literally talking about, her name was Mary Magdalena. And talking about this, it literally talks about how she was good with herbs and medicine and would help people in her village. So it was like, just like confirming to me, like, okay, this was an ancestor here to help me. And if you're ever feeling unsure, if you're feeling like an ancestral presence, or you know, something that I don't think gets talked about enough in the spiritual community is how much, you know, the devil, Satan, false light beings literally appear as light. And when actually they are, you know, they're not that. They don't come from God. So something that you can do and really get into this deeper practice of, one, when you are connecting with your ancestors, connecting with God, Source Creator, our beloved Most High, first and foremost. Then asking God to send you an ancestor, asking God for the help and the support, and sending in that ancestor to help you, who's here to help you break the chains. That's really freaking important. Let's talk about this one. This is number 7. The ancestral gifts that unlock as you clear and heal your own body, mind, and soul, and detach from the trauma that is not yours to carry. awareness, compassion, love, creating safety in your own body literally opens up these dormant gifts that are yours, that your ancestors have worked on, that you have worked on over lifetimes. Our chakras can literally hold so much flipping information, and they open up at specific points and bring through these different gifts and awareness and knowledge when you reach a certain frequency. If you are operating from trauma, if you're still operating from your wounds, there's certain gifts that are just not going to freaking unlock for you or manifest because you're still in these very wounded places. And to have certain gifts and knowledge and awareness, one, you wouldn't know what to do with it, and two, if you're not at the correct frequency, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out. We see this a lot with people going through psychosis and awakening too fast, that Kundalini awakening too fast, going through very traumatic instances. If your body is not able to support it, you're not going to be able to handle it. So it's important to really focus on yourself, focus on your mind, your body, and your spirit. The biggest thing being your body, being in your body. There's, if we want to talk about the enemy wants you to be disassociated. They want you out of your body. They want you astral traveling. They want you addicted to your phone and other substances and porn and all of these things to keep you distracted, to keep you disjointed from your body, from recognizing its own, the body has such an important language. And we don't listen to it because we're outside of our body. We want to astral project. We want to do this and that and all of these gifts and channeling. And you're not going to be able to do that or handle that unless you are in your body, secure and feeling safe. And there's so many different practices and things. Working with a therapist, EMDR therapy, if you are also someone who has gone through an extensive amount of trauma in your own life, I'm a big believer in therapy and getting that help that you need. I've been really terrified of going to the doctor for many years, and I finally went because I've been having so many health issues over this past year that I can't freaking ignore anymore. So it's really important to follow your intuition and asking God for help to direct you to the right doctor. I found a clinic that they're all nurse practitioners, they're all women, and they were freaking awesome. I faced a really big fear this week. So it's important to recognize when to get help, seek help, and allow yourself to receive that help. I feel like that is a really big lesson that has helped my gifts and my intuition expand and open up even more because I've been doing that work here in my body. It's important to really know that it's okay to transmute this stuff, set down these patterns, your ancestral patterns, and there's only so much we're responsible for transmuting, for changing, for shifting, for forgiveness. It reaches a point with ancestral healing where it's no, I'm not going to carry this anymore. It's releasing those 7 generations back off of your back. And you get to flip the script and make different choices when it comes to your patterns, how you're going to raise your children, how you are going to interact with the earth and your community and God. It is this gratitude for all that came before me, and at the same time, grateful for all who will come after us, and also grateful for this here and now, this present moment where I'm going to live, and allowing your cells to go through that cellular cleaning and releasing all that is not yours, the patterns, the pain, the addictions, releasing that. You know, when you really start to dive into this ancestral healing, I feel like the biggest thing to really recognize is the patterns. To really go through your own like family constellation and notice the patterns. One of the biggest patterns in mine is addiction, codependency, narcissism, and addictions, alcoholism, drugs, escapism, and child abuse. Those were very big patterns and issues just in like this current generation. So going back a generation, it's still there. Going back another generation, those patterns are still there. They didn't just pop up out of nowhere. So it's important to really look through these patterns. And I think a big one to look into is health. Another big pattern in my bloodline is mental illness, physical illnesses like cancer, diabetes, pure emotional neglect. The big thing, I'm like reading from my notes because I like there's so much to talk about this. The biggest thing, awareness. Noticing everything and feeling what needs to be felt. Allowing those waves to crash through, like I did with grieving the loss of a, like, what would that be? Like a great uncle or something. It's like allowing what needs to be felt, what needs to be honored, what needs to be heard. And this is the same thing with healing our own trauma and releasing that, setting that down, allowing that pattern to be broken, starting new patterns. Okay, this is like, I feel like I'm repeating, but we're going to. A big thing, researching your family history, getting into genealogy, asking for help, asking your grandparents, asking your parents, asking your mom, and just like honestly noticing the relationships between mother and daughter, father and son, mother and child. There's a really big difference between the mothers in my family and the women in my family and their relationship with the daughters and the nieces versus the relationship with the nephews and the sons. They are treated a lot differently. So it's noticing those patterns and going a bit deeper. If you're noticing and you're doing this research and you're like, well, my family has a lot of mental illness and addiction and all of this, it's like, okay, we'll go a bit deeper into that. Where is this trauma coming from? Is this trauma because they moved from another country, they went through war, abuse, sacrificial weird shit? It's looking deeper into that, recognizing these patterns and like, you know what? Thank you, God, for helping us heal this and release this subconscious trauma, worries. Thank you for helping to clear our nervous system. And a big thing for me as going through this is finding compassion, love, and forgiveness for the choices that they made. I'm always a big believer in the Ponopono prayer. This is absolutely incredible, it's helped me so much over my journey in really processing and releasing myself from some very heavy shit. So that's a big one. I always truly believe that, and you can find that on YouTube, a Ponopono prayer. I would recommend that to anyone. I did that for 40 days one time, and I couldn't believe the amount of shaking my body was doing. I felt intuitively called to lay down, and just it was like release after release after release every single day. Like I already knew, like, okay, now it's time to cry for like 11 minutes. And at the same time, I felt lighter, I felt freer every time I said those words. Another big thing to look at is, breaking the cycle, the habits, the patterns, but what addictions do you have? Codependency, health issues, what do you see within you? Because what is within you, I guarantee that was within an ancestor as well. So that's a big thing, to really face that radical self-forgiveness for you. This also is ancestral healing. Okay, and yeah, last thing I want to talk about is energy healing. The shamanic God code, we literally did the whole chakras, or the 7 main chakras, over on our other channel, which you can go through, and those will really help unlock your chakras. Like we mentioned, we do have this Earth Star Ancestral Healing available in our Etsy shop that is there to support you in also releasing these deeper patterns. This is something that I would see over and over and over again in sessions. I was always directed to go into that Earth Star chakra and really clear some ancestral, I want to call it like goop. It's like, 'cause that's what it sometimes would appear as, like just this, it's ancestral residue that just, it needs to be brought into the light and released. There's some subconscious things that it's like, yes, it's really important that it comes up to the consciousness so that we see it and we're able to release it that way. And other times it's literally, it's working with God, source, creator, our beloved most high. It's working with a healer who also works with him, and really working with someone reputable and going into that deeper subconscious with that, and having someone hold safe space for you while you do that. Like, ancestral healing is possible. You know, healing ourselves, that is possible. To get to these points and these spaces and places where we're not in these endless loops of worry and anxiety and trauma bonding. Like, we can break these cycles. It takes radical forgiveness for yourself, for others, and allowing yourself to like be free of it. And it is that conscious choice of being free of it. And also allowing yourself to tune into those gifts of your ancestors, for they carry many gifts as well. Okay, so that was a lot. Feel free to rewatch this video. We'll have plenty of timestamps within this one. And if you would like to go deeper with that, again, we have the Earth Star Chakra healing. If you would like to work one-on-one with me, please send me an email. We'll leave some more info below for a shamanic God code healing. We really encourage you to reach out to us to make sure we would be a good fit first and foremost. So we are sending you so much love and blessings. Please leave any questions down below. We will be glad to make a follow-up video if you do have more questions. Much love and blessings. Namaste.